Hey everybody, Rodney Miller here with Hard Money Partner. Bringing you another great interview. Justin Gentry today is on the other side of this Zoom call, and want to bring him on because he's a fascinating character, a guy that I've known for probably really early on when I got into the business, somewhere around 2003, and been I touched base with him from time to time, but he just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and taking on bigger challenges. And it's just, I'm blown away at kind of some of the stuff that Justin has accomplished and what he's taken on. So I appreciate you coming on, Justin. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I can't believe it's already been that long. We've known each other for a long time.
I know, man. We're getting old. God dang it. I still remember I kind of got to know you a little bit on that bus tour.
Oh yeah, I remember
Pete something. Who was that guy? The rehab guy?
Pete Youngs.
Pete Youngs. And that was around 2003, 2004, maybe?
About that, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, were you just getting started in the business?
I was going pretty well by then. I had already almost gone bankrupt and come back up at that point, I think. If it's when I think it was. So, yeah.
Really?
That may have been, I think that was about 2006, actually, now that I think about it.
Okay, I might have been into the business for a little bit before then.
You had already got
2003.
I think. Yeah, you were getting out of home investors at that point, I think.
Yeah.
But
so, hey, just tell everybody, kind of give us a little bit of background on you and kind of what you did before real estate, and then we'll talk about how you transitioned. We want to spend a lot of time on all that crap because I want to get to some of your latest project, which is super cool. But tell me about your background before real estate.
Before real estate, I had just gotten out of school. I mean, I was waiting tables, and I went to school to learn sign language. I became an interpreter for that. And I probably did that for a year before bailing off into real estate. I mean, it was basically immediate. I was self-employed and I was looking for other avenues.
Okay.
So I went straight into real estate in 2003.
Okay.
I graduated in 2002. Well, I didn't really graduate, but I finished in 2002. But so 2003 is whenever real estate started for me, and it just I didn't do any other self-employment stuff after 2004 and 5. It's been all real estate ever since then.
So what made you, I mean, you went to college, you had a degree in sign language, right?
Yeah, I don't really have a degree, but
that's what you went to school for?
Yeah.
And then after a year of that, you just decided you wanted more, you want to be self-employed, kind of what was
I mean, I have been self-employed since I was 12 in one fashion or another. And self-employment's great, but the problem is if you stop working for a day, the money stops. I mean, that's the difference between self-employment and a business. A business runs without you. Self-employment, it's all you. So while you're able to control your schedule, you're bound to that. Honestly, I mean, you just own your job instead of somebody telling you what to do.
Yes.
I was from a very young age. That was kind of a stepping stone. I knew that was where I was going to go through, but I had no intention of staying there. I wanted to do my own thing, have a business that ran without me, build wealth. That's always been what I've always shot for.
Gotcha. Something was in your blood that you just knew that was your destiny. You just didn't know how you were going to get there.
Yeah, it's just always been fascinating. Gotcha.
Did it come from your family? Were your family entrepreneurs, or did somebody plant a seed?
It was just from day one, I guess. I mean, I was always wanting to jack with money, and I was always trying to make money, and I didn't do very good at it when I was young. But I mean, it's not like I was making a bunch of money in high school. I wasn't, but I was always trying to, and I always wanted to, and I always knew that I was going to do that.
Hey, you were in training, man. I like it. You were together. You know, in a world where 90% of people, there's goals to get a college degree and go get the job. I mean, that's a fairly unique a mindset when you're that young. You don't see that a lot.
Yeah.
When I find a kid like that or somebody like that, I get really excited because it's kind of unique.
Yeah.
Some people have that mindset and most people do not. But so tell us, you jumped into real estate. Tell us about your first few deals. What did you decide? I mean, you decided did you want to go into buy and hold? Were you going to flip, wholesale? What was your plan? And what did you start off with?
I mean, the first few, so whenever I got started, I jumped in and I bought 8 houses as fast as I could. So remember, this was 2003.
Okay.
So anybody could get credit at that time. That was no doc loans were happening back then. So I had really good credit and I had good income because I was self-employed and you didn't really have to prove it. So my strategy at that time was to buy as many houses as I could on 30-year notes before any of them hit my credit. So in the span of about 2 months, I bought like 8 houses and they were all $100,000, $130,000 houses.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't cash flow at all. They all lost money for the most part. So it wasn't long before I was figuring out what was good and what was not a good rent house. So I had those from the end of 2003 into 2005. So some of those lost money and some of them made money. So overall, I pretty well broke even, but the market kind of saved my ass, honestly.
Gotcha.
Because it was really good back then. So I was able to get out of most of that stuff without having to bring a bunch of money to the table. But had it gone another 6 months, I would have gone bankrupt because we were already getting behind on payments. So fortunately,
Okay.
at this point, the market just saved us. That's just
Wow, man. So, I mean, that's kind of the ready, fire, aim kind of entrepreneur mentality. You're going to do it and you're going to do it fast and you're just going to go for it and figure it out later. And it worked out for you. Kind of like I did. I just went with home investors and they had me spending 20 grand a month on advertising. I had no idea what I was doing. And you know, I turned around, I had bought a house. I was 3 months into it, 60 grand in the hole.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know if I was going to, I got a little freaked out and then thought I made a big mistake but it all worked out, I bought my first house and then it started working, but same thing. So you just went for it, could have gone bad, but somehow things worked out and you lived to fight another day. And so you learned, you did 10 really quick. You learned what you didn't want to do. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's for me, it's always been that way. I've never been the guy who could sit down and really plan things out. I'm not a planner. Yeah. So I'll get into it. I'll analyze it and I'll try to figure out where I'm going to go. And once I get to a certain point, I'm done. I pull the trigger and I go all in. Whether it was back then buying houses or if it was building houses a few years ago, I built 3 all at the same time. Or, I mean, there have been countless examples. It's just the way I always do it. I'm going to jump all the way in. Yeah.
So you're a perfect entrepreneur. You got the lizard brain. You react fast and move fast. You don't have the thinker brain. You're not going to overanalyze things.
Correct.
You're going to get the data you need to move, and then you're going to act fast, right?
Yeah,
and so
pull the trigger and go. And that's honestly, where we're at now, looking back, the people who have been successful and the people who have not, the number one thing that I notice is those who have been successful, they don't worry about what's going to go bad. They make the same mistakes as everybody else does. They just don't waste time making decisions. They pull the trigger, they move, they fail, or they succeed. If they fail, they get past it right quick. They just keep going. It's just a countless number of steps and I guess achievements is the best way to say it, whether it be positive or negative, that happen in that same amount of time.
Yes.
This guy over here has 10, this guy over here has 100, and half of them are failures, but he's still got that many more successes under his belt by that same amount of time.
So a wise man said, to be successful, all you need is your successes to outnumber your failures.
That's it. Get through them. Let's go.
Exactly. And that's what drove me crazy when I was going to those real estate club meetings. And actually I was going to teach real estate for a little while, investing back in the mid 2000s or whatever. But I couldn't get over the fact that so many people show up there and you have to see them, month after month, sometimes years, and they wouldn't buy a house. They would not pull the trigger and buy their first house. And that drove me crazy.
Yeah.
Because you don't learn until you buy your first house. You just
have to go do it.
Yep. Exactly. So you did your 10 rentals and then, I came across you one day and you were doing a burnout, then you did another burnout, then you had 20 burnouts. You became the burnout king. You got really good at burnouts. Tell us about that transition.
I mean, it kind of happened by accident. I think everybody kind of knew that I would try about anything back then, I guess. So one guy called and said, "Hey, I got this house. It's burnt. You want to try it?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I went and bought it. And that one actually wasn't burnt. It was just smoked up real bad.
Okay.
So I learned how to deal with smoke in that one. And the next one, it was crispy. I mean, the top was completely off of it. It was just burnt.
Did you have any construction experience at that time? Because there's a lot of construction and
No,
You're tearing it down and reframing and building back up, but you just went for it. You didn't have.
Actually, I mean, I say that. I did a little bit. We had done a few rehabs, DIY'd them. It wasn't anything to that level, but we had done some that we had gutted all the way to the studs. So, I mean, I knew how things kind of went together, but how to bid one out, I didn't. I just, same thing with that. I collected what numbers I could. I shot from the hip on the others to get the best that I could, and I pulled the trigger and went. Okay. And I thought, worst case, I break even on the thing, and I learned how to do it. And I think I made 10 grand on that, and it was like a $40,000 rehab in 2005. It was completely burnt at that time, but I learned everything about a burnout in that job.
Yeah.
It has paid dividends ever since then.
So you actually made a profit on your first deal. That's pretty good. I mean, because those are big, scary jobs. A lot of people won't touch those burnouts, but you got so good at it. I mean, that was kind of your thing. You were the burnout guy, right? For a long time. Weren't you, if somebody had a burnout in town, or they were going to go to Justin Gentry, I think, for the most part. I mean, I think you kind of, were you making the rounds? Were you going to all the fire stations and stuff? What were you doing to get all this burnout?
Yeah, we marketed to them a lot, and we had a lot more people call us back then than they do now. Now we don't get nearly the result we did, just because there are so many more people doing it. But there were, like you said, investors all over town. If they found one, they called. Yeah, and it's still that way to a point today. I still buy 20 or 30 a year, I'm guessing, that have had fires. It may not be 30. It's probably 15 to 20.
Wow.
And a lot of those come from other investors. Still the same thing happening.
Really nice.
But
yeah, and that's just your burnout. You're also doing other rehabs, not burnout, right?
Correct. I mean, I'll rehab anything that needs to be rehabbed, unless I can just touch it up and sell it without doing that, or keep it as a rental or whatever.
Okay. And I remember back, I was wholesaling properties. You were buying properties off of me, and you were doing a lot of buy and hold. I don't know if you were doing rentals or if you're doing owner finance stuff, but you amassed a pretty good portfolio of hold stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you were around 50 or 60 when I was wholesaling, and that was like 2008 or 9 or something. But where are you at now? You doing buy and hold stuff now? Do you have a portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, we're still at about 200, and about half of that is single family, and the other half is multifamily, and that does not include the 160 that we just bought.
200 doors.
Yeah, it's about that. So
how much of that's multifamily? I know you got was a 40, 50 unit down south or something?
Yeah, it's roughly half and half.
Okay.
And I'm not going to grow the single family anymore. I'm getting rid of old ones that are not as good, and 1031ing into better properties. So I'll keep that cash flow level about where it's at.
Okay.
But it's done what it's going to do. I mean, it set us up to be able to get into bigger investments, which was always its point. So for me, if I was to ask you, how are you going to make $100 million? Can you do that with single family houses? Well, yeah, you can. It's probably going to take you the next 100 years.
Yeah.
Can you do it with apartments? Yeah. 10 deals, 10 big deals, and you got it. So
yeah,
I don't know if I'm going to do 10 big deals or not, but economy of scale takes over at some point in your business, and you have to decide when is the right time to get out of one and into the other.
Exactly.
We have passed that point.
Exactly.
So for us now, quick money.
What are you looking for? Well, let's talk about. So I saw that one deal you had, the apartment complex you had up on the west side. You bought a year or two ago, and you were going to rehab that. Where's that? That's at 23rd and
23rd and McCarther. Yeah,
McCarther. So is that you have that fully rehabbed and turned? And tell us about that deal.
Yeah, that one I paid more than I wanted to on it, but I had 1031 money that I could put somewhere, and we were ready to do a job. So I ended up paying $915 for that one. 34 units. At that time, it would have appraised at about 1.6, I think, 1.6, 1.7, something like that. And I ended up putting around 300 grand of my money into it.
Okay.
So I was into it for around 1.2.
Okay.
So now it should be, I'm guessing 1.8, 1.9. It'll appraise for 2 if that's worth anything. But it grosses out a little over 20 grand a month now. We've got 3 doors left to get filled. It's fully rehabbed. We're done. We're just finishing the fill up now.
I know that part of town. I think I've been told by other brokers who we've looked at deals around there, it's a little harder to keep them occupied. when we underwrote deals on that side of town, Bethany area, or not really Bethany, but when you started getting west, they said, use a occupancy rate of around 85% as your, and if you hit 90, you're doing really good. What have you found over there? Is it a little harder to keep good residents? And I mean, do you stay in the 90s with occupancy?
Yeah, I mean, it happens in pockets over there, and it depends on the property. So the quality of the property dictates the quality of the tenant.
Okay.
So look, that's the reason I bought the one over on 16th that we just bought. That area and that property are going to be okay. In my opinion, I don't figure we'll have any problems with it. But like if you got over around 10th and Council or something like that, you would have hell constantly.
Yes.
I looked at, there was a 34 unit that popped up. I'm sorry, not a 34 unit, a 20 unit that popped up on 34th and McCarther. 21 bedroom apartments. And these guys had paid $780 for it. And they were trying to cut it loose at $500. And that happened over the span of a year. And I was like, no. And that's one of those. It was 2 cinder block buildings. It had been remodeled. It looked good inside, but it was all 1 bedroom apartments built in the 60s, I think.
Yeah.
It's just one of those. It's just going to be tough to deal with.
Sure.
Unless you want to be on it all the time, and it's just a small property, and you don't want to mess with that.
So, so what's the name of the one at McCarther and 23rd?
MacArthur Park Townhomes.
MacArthur Park. I remember that coming up, and I think I drove by it, but I don't remember what it's priced at, but I didn't really take a close look at it. Next thing I knew, you owned it. But so it
was on the market, and some guys had it under contract at 1.4, and then it had a fire.
Through. Okay.
Yeah.
So you created about $800,000 worth of equity on one deal. How many houses would it take to create $800,000 worth of equity?
Yeah, it takes a while. Now that was a year worth of work, but it takes a while. Now, honestly, it was a year worth of work because I made it that way, because I just kept footing the bill with cash.
Yeah.
I didn't want to borrow all the money. I kept the banknote down real low. So I just kind of piddled along and went along with cash and had our guys do it. And it took longer, but that was okay.
Is your cash still buried in that deal, or did you refinance and pull it out?
Yeah, it's still over there. That's where I intend
to.
If
you ever wanted to, you could refinance and pull that out and use it on another deal.
Yeah, and I have thought about that. We're getting some land from our neighbor, so I'm probably going to build about 18 or 19 more there.
Really?
So I don't want to do an agency loan until that's done, because it's going to screw that up. So I'll probably expand that some before I do that. Yeah.
And then in the middle of all this, you decide you were going to become a builder and build some houses, right?
Yeah, that was a stint in 2016.
Tell us about your building experience.
Building did not go like I had hoped it would go. I thought burnouts, new construction's no different. Construction's construction. Mm-hmm. I had a rude awakening that it's a completely different animal.
Okay.
It's 2 completely different business models. And
is it because the margins are so much tighter?
Yeah. So like anything that we do on a rehab, an existing house, our money is made when we buy it. I don't get super tight on how much this and that's going to cost, because it's a remodel. You never know what you're going to run into. You just build in a bunch of fluff and you go. And we always do okay with that. Sometimes we don't, but in general, we do real well with those. You can't build fluff into a new construction. The lot costs what it costs. Framing costs what it costs. Like right now, new construction, lumber costs doubled and tripled. So, you don't have any control of that stuff. So in general, the business model that new builders use is it's a discount on every little thing all the way through the process. That's how they make their money. And if they don't do very well with that, they end up making 5% on the back end.
Yeah.
We just don't have the kind of market here that you can just pop a house out there and expect 50 people to show up wanting to buy it. This is not the way Florida was a few years ago and other parts of the U.S.
Yeah.
So I built 3, and I ended up owner financing 2 of those. One of those has paid me off. The other one I still have. And then one of them I sold, and I think I just about broke even on that one.
Okay.
So
you tried it?
I tried it. I learned a ton off of it. It worked okay. I made a little bit of money on it. It took me about a year, and I figured out what to do and what not to do.
I like it, man. I like it. If there's a lesson here, I think another lesson is just, get out there and do something. Take action. and
Yeah, just go do something.
just go do something, man. Stop thinking about it.
Life's too freaking short. Just go.
Yeah. Okay. So so you build houses, doing burnouts, you do a lot of flips. Like right now, how many flips you got going?
I think we're 10 or 11 right now, something like that.
What's the most you've ever had? What's the most rehab flips you've had going at one time?
Oh, we've had it in the 20s going at a time before.
20.
Yeah, it's just with the way the market is right now, we don't have to rehab everything all the way through. It just takes too long. So a lot of the times I can sell something, I can remove the scary parts and leave it so it's just paint and carpet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And a DIY homeowner will come in there and I will make within 5 or 10 grand, and I don't spend the last 2 months finishing it out. And I'll leave, there'll be a little bit there for them, and that's all well and good. The market's just paying that right now, so I'll let them have all they want of that.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. It wouldn't even retail. My favorite thing was to take a house that was junked out and just clean it out, throw some bleach around it, and owner finance it to somebody, and just easy peasy, not put a lot of money into it. Let them put the money into it. And give them 15 years or whatever. 200 doors. And let's get to your newest project, which I'm blown away at because I looked at it about a year ago and it scared the crap out of me just looking at it. I got a call from a broker and he's, I got something for you. Come check this out. And I drove over there and walked. I was like, holy crap. There's no way I can do this. But I found out, just recently that you had taken it on Facebook or something. And I was like, holy crap. I just didn't think there was enough money in the world to bring that sucker back. I just didn't. And I knew I wasn't the guy to do it. But when I saw you had it and you bought it, it made sense. I think if anybody can bring that sucker back and make it profitable, I think you're the guy. You got the background, the experience, construction and large projects. I think that you could do that. So let's talk about that deal, because the deal is going to be your biggest deal to date, I'm guessing, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Let's talk about it. So give us the spill on this new project.
So it's 160 units. There are five or six buildings burned. So they're all vacant. I don't think there's any copper or brass or anything left in it. They even stole the electric transformer. So they are good structures. We paid 800 grand for it. So I expect it's probably going to be a 3-year project for me. Right now I'm just plowing cash into it to keep my expenses down. I hope to, by the end of the year, have 30 rentable units. I'm sorry, not by the end of the year. Within 6 months, I hope to have about 30 rentable units, and I can start kind of doing a construction rate thing for rent to start bringing some money in. That's what we're shooting for, and then over the next 3 to 4 years, get it all the way filled out. That's what I'm going for.
So when you do that, because I saw it, and the first thing I thought is like I could get a couple buildings going in the front here or whatever, but I don't want little kids playing around all this other stuff. So what do you do? So fence off all these burned out units in the how do you approach that?
Well, I mean, like the burnt stuff we're having to deal with now.
Okay.
We'll just get that gone, and then after that point is done, we are focusing on the front 6 buildings.
Okay.
We'll focus on the exteriors, make them look good on the outside, and then start focusing on interiors, get something rentable. And as soon as we do that, we'll go on to the next 6. I think there are it's either 22 or 24 buildings there. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But for now, we're going to get around 30, 40 units up and running. At that point, we'll decide which ones we want to tackle next. What's the easiest cash flow to get to out of the place.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll have to fence off some of it anyway, because we've got machinery over there, and we don't want kids getting back there playing on it or anything else. It's just so much stuff to get hard on. So we'll fence off the front half of it.
I remember the pool was really rough, and I think the office was kind of in the back, wasn't it? Is the office in the back of the property?
Yes.
What are you going to do with the pool? I guess you're going to start working on the office. What are you going to do with the office and the pool in that area that needed so much work?
Well, the office is gone.
Okay.
It had a fire, so it completely burnt. So we just got our skid steer over there and put it in dumpsters and got it out of there. So it's a slab right now. We will probably rebuild it to where it is. I don't know if we're going to put the pool back in there. I've been in every apartment complex in that part of town, and it seems to be about half and half, whether they have it or they don't.
Gotcha.
And I'm not sure that it's a requirement.
Because this will probably be a C class.
Yeah.
Are you going to take any? Are you going to take any government stuff, or is this going to be just a solid C class? Workforce housing.
Yeah. Well, by government stuff, if you're talking about Section H, yeah, it's going to be required over there. We'll do that. We won't do any kind of big contracts or anything like that, which I don't even think you could, but we'll do whatever. The big thing is we're going to get good tenants. We always do.
Sure.
We'll have we'll have to put in a road off of 16th and add parking in the interior of the place. So the pool, we'll see what happens with that.
Okay. Yeah, I just remember it looked really rough, and I guess if you don't need to put one in there, you don't need to put one in there. That's kind of the way it goes over there. But
yeah, they're kind of expensive.
Yeah. So tell me about how you put this project together. Was that a Toby Brown deal? Was he?
Yeah, I bought it off of Toby. Yes.
He was the owner. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think he'd ever get his money out.
Well, yeah, I don't know that he did. I know there was a lot happened there while he owned it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I assume that he just had so many projects going that it just wound up he never could get to it, and then it kind of got away from him a little bit. But
yeah, he's got a lot of stuff on his plate. He's got a lot of stuff going on, from what I can tell. So how'd you put this deal together financially? So you buy it for $800,000, and how much money you got to put into it?
So you mean just to get it bought?
No, I mean, how much you gonna have to put into it? Let's just say you're gonna do some phases.
So basically,
how do you finance that with your bank and all that? How do you talk a bank into taking on something like that?
Yeah, they weren't too excited about that deal. So I had just finished a refinance on one of my other complexes. So I got about $800,000 out of that.
Okay.
So the plan had been to just use that to buy and sell houses, and this popped up, and I thought, well, I'll just put it in there. So that was some operating cash for me. I also had a little over $1 million in property that was just paid off. So the bank did not like the apartment complex much, understandably so. I mean, if I don't do what I say I'm going to do, they're stuck with it, and then it's going to be a elephant for them to try to move.
Sure.
So there's a lot of risk there for them. So I put up a bunch of my paid off stuff as collateral. So they took my paid offs, a bunch of those, and the apartment complex, and they gave me a loan for $700,000 to get it bought.
Okay.
So it was just $100,000 for me to buy the thing.
Okay.
So that leaves me with $700,000 to run with to see how far I can go to get some operating units out of. So for now, that's my whole thing, is just use my cash to get as much as I can, because obviously I've already got a $700,000 note. That's going to be $4,000 a month, probably, roughly.
Yeah.
It may not be that high, but all the money I borrow is just more interest going out the door.
Yeah.
So for now, I'm just using my own cash to get as many as I can.
Gotcha.
To start footing some bills.
So you just self-fund the first part of the rehab, and then maybe get to a certain point to where the banks will kind of take another look at it.
Yeah, once they see that, yeah, we've made it far enough through that they're safe, and I've got some cash flow coming in, and we can start covering some bills. That's when I'll start raising the expenses too, with interest and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Man, that's interesting. So where did the original 800 come from? Refinanced out your other apartment complex?
Yeah, I had another one in Noble that had a really low balance, and I refinanced it and got a bunch of money out of it. So that was one of those deals that it was just amazing, because our payments on that were a little over $6,000 a month, and after refinancing it and getting all that money out, our payments are still $6,000 a month. So basically, I got $800,000 that I could use as I needed to, with no increase in expenses across my books.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That worked out extremely well.
And it's not a taxable event either. That's just cash you seek another deal, right?
Yes, correct. Which we are. So we'll stick it over there. I expect that thing is going to cost me $5 million to rehab by the time it's done.
Yeah, we were talking about that too. So you'll be $5 million to rehab. Is that all in? $5 million with your $800,000 purchase price, And then
No,
another 5 million.
No, I figure it'll be around 6 all in by the
6
time.
million all in.
Yeah.
And then based on today's cap rates, what do you think the value will be on that thing if you have it 85, 90% occupied?
Based on today's cap rates, it should be 9.2 to 9.6, something like that.
Wow. So
And I didn't believe that because I've never done anything that big, and I thought there's no freaking way something around here is worth 9 million. Well, I pulled up a bunch of the other apartment complexes up there, and there were several that had gone for 8 and 9 million, and I thought, well, I guess they'll do it. All right, well, I'll go do it too. That's fine.
Wow. So I can see the title of this this interview, Justin Gentry and the $4 million flip. That's incredible, dude. That's really cool. So what do you do now? Do you put everything else on hold and just focus on this? Or are you just going to keep looking for bigger deals?
Well, I mean, as far as big deals, we have to limit that to about one at a time.
Yeah.
We only have so much in resources.
Right now you do, but not forever, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's manpower too. I mean,
sure.
That becomes the bigger challenge with a lot of this stuff. So,
yeah.
So we're still buying as many houses as we can. I bought 3 last week. So we'll still bang out every house that we can get, and we'll do this project. And once we get further along in it, and we'll probably bring in some more guys once it starts cash flowing some stuff on its own.
Yeah.
That's why we've done projects in the past. Once they start producing some money and it can start paying for some stuff itself, well, we'll just get some guys over there all the time.
Yeah.
And let it pay for its own way to a point.
Sure.
And once it's doing that, we might start looking at some other stuff.
Man, I can see you 5 years from now and having like 5 of these projects going. Once you figure it out, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. All over the country.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in doing some stuff in Tulsa, but I've never been too tempted to go very far away.
Yeah, it makes it hard, doesn't it?
There's just so much stuff to do here too.
Yeah, we got a lot. So, man, that's really interesting. Let's just talk about, let's talk about, like, if you were to like reach out to your younger self before you started real estate, and you could tell yourself all the roadblocks you hit and all the things that you did and messed up, what would you tell yourself? What kind of advice would you give yourself? Or would you just...
Overall, it's all worked out extremely well. I mean, some of the biggest things that I wish I had done different was maybe take a little bit more time off. Whatever it took to enjoy the ride a little bit more. I mean, that was the big thing, because now it's a blast. We have so much fun now doing what we do. Mm-hmm. In the past, there was a lot of it that was super stressful, and it was because of the way I was doing it. If I had to do something different in the past, it would have been sell some more houses, produce some more income, immediate income, instead of just do everything rental.
Yeah.
I mean, we grew so heavily, so as much as we could back there, that it sucked up every penny that we had all the time. So we just lived off of nothing.
Yeah.
And that's paying in dividends today, but it made for a super stressful ride.
Sure.
I wish we would have done it a little bit differently to enjoy that time a little bit more. Probably.
I experienced the same thing when I started accumulating properties, man. It seems like everything in my life just goes so fast. It just flies by. But when it comes to paying down properties, it's like the clock starts going backwards. And I don't even know how that works. How does that work? Everything's speeding by, but you look and you're like, it's not paid off yet. Damn, man. You're like waiting for this stuff to pay down. But buying and holding, man. And when you're in your process and you're buying and holding a lot, it just eats capital, man. It just seems to.
It just sucks it up like a vacuum. It's constant.
Yep. What are some of the favorite books you've read that really helped you out in the real estate and entrepreneurship, just business books and real estate books?
I mean, obviously I started like everybody else with Rich Dad, Poor Dad and No Money Down. I don't think I ever read Caltron Sheets. Russ Whitney was one of the first ones that I read too.
Yeah.
But Millionaire Next Door has always been one of my favorite ones.
Yep.
What's that dude? DeMarco? I can't remember his name.
Millionaire Fast Lane or whatever. Yeah. I tell the people I found that book last year.
Yeah.
And loved it. And he's got another one, Unscripted. It's really good.
Yeah, I really like that. even though the guy's going bankrupt, what's the big dude's name that flies around a jet and has half?
Oh, Grant Cardone.
Yeah, his stuff. I love that guy.
Dude, I'm not a fan of that guy, man. He's just a blowhard to me.
Yeah, he is. It's just his mindset.
Yeah.
About the exact things that we've talked about. Don't analyze it. Just make a decision. Go. Just go.
Yeah, he just got in a class action lawsuit. I just saw all of his investors are suing him.
Yeah, I would be lying if I didn't say that was a surprise. Because when he was growing so fast, it was like, that's going to be tough to sustain that kind of thing.
Yeah, he made a bunch of videos and stuff where he kind of made some claims, and you don't do that when you're doing 506 B and C raises. You got to be really careful. Securities Commission really watches how you advertise your deals and what you claim to the public. And I think he got a little loosey goosey with that. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But
I don't read a ton. I've always found it to be counterproductive. You hear about people wanting to read a book a week, 52 in a year or whatever. And that's one of those things that it's like, there's no freaking way.
Dude, you need to be writing the books, not reading the books.
You can only implement so many ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like me, but when you're listening to it, it's like, oh, that's a great idea. But if you're listening to a book a week, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It takes us months to get one good idea put into place.
Yes.
So I have to turn that stuff off. And
yeah, because it can be overload. It makes you wonder if you're doing the right thing and you're just getting too much information and you want to act on some of it, and you can just be chasing rabbits your whole, all the time. But
yeah, pretty much.
Did you stumble across a book on building houses? Is that what got you building houses?
No, I mean, it's something that I always wanted to do. I knew we were going to build our own personal house. And like I said, I thought construction's construction. It can't be that difficult. Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't that difficult. Just there wasn't as much money as there. It's just so cutthroat.
Sure.
Just a tough deal to do. But it was a very fun deal to learn how to do. I mean, I still do a custom every now and then. I'm doing one now. So. Really? No more spec houses, yeah.
You just say it like it was nothing. Oh, I'm doing a custom house. Yeah, I forgot about that one. I always thought it'd be cool to build a little house, just to build one and go through it. But
Yeah, I mean, I still have in mind to build some stuff to rent. That's what caused this whole thing, because I knew I probably wanted to build some houses or apartments, so I needed to learn the process. So we jumped in and did it.
Yeah. If I really hit the itch, I'll just go join Habitat for Humanity and spend a weekend. That's good. Yeah. So, it'd probably be the faster, quicker way for me to knock it out of my system. Yeah. So, dude, man, I really respect you, man. You've done more than anybody I know in this town, and you help people. You're just always there to help out folks. I mean, everybody I talk to, I know, has great things to say about you because you're open. You were shooting out some YouTube videos, some Facebook videos for a while there, and they were very helpful, and I enjoyed watching those. Are you still doing those?
I haven't. I'll be honest. First off, I greatly appreciate that. I've always wanted to be able to help people out a lot with this stuff because it's so much fun. I always enjoy it so much. But yeah, the Facebook videos, I make a pledge about once every 6 months to a year that I'm gonna post more stuff on Facebook. And then I do it a few times, and I remember how much I hate posting on Facebook, and I don't like doing it. So yeah, I'll have a string again here probably pretty soon where I make myself do some more, but I just don't like doing it very much. No, but I know I need to. That's the frustrating part. I need to do that. But
yeah, well, they were interesting. You were doing a good job while you were doing it. So
I appreciate.
But yeah, everybody has good things to say about you, man. I know you help a lot of folks. If people want to get a hold of you and ask you more questions or pick your brain or anything like that, how do they get a hold of you?
Mostly just give me a call. I mean, people can find me on Facebook too. They can message me through that, but my phone number is 405-249-2447. Okay. It's been pretty nuts lately, but typically I'll get back with you pretty soon if I miss you.
And Justin owns We Buy Houses LLC, and Sell My Fixer Upper is his buy website. Is that correct? sellmyfixerupper.com.
Yeah, that's it. That's what you see the TV commercials on. So yeah, Sell My Fixer Upper is what we've been operating under for all the marketing.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you what, man, this is a great interview, and I want to follow up with you, from time to time, and maybe see what you got going on, and maybe we'll come out and do an on-site and kind of walk that property with you.
That sounds awesome, man. I'd love to do that.
Tape it, and I'm gonna have you send me some pictures of that too. I'll talk to you when we in this, and we'll put some pictures up of your project, show some folks, let them see what you got going on. But thanks, Justin. We really appreciate you coming on, man. You're awesome, dude, and we can't wait to see what you take on next.
Awesome. Pretty excited.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.